Hi, welcome back to Embrace the Madness. My name is Madeline and I am your host. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have never listened to this podcast before, I totally recommend starting with a previous episode. But if you're here for this one, then that's awesome. It's just a podcast where I kind of share my human experience and I guess give guidance, wisdom to kind of help you if you are navigating similar things, because I really think that because we are all human and have emotions that we kind of go through these similar universal experiences. And it's not like I think that yeah, like these themes you're like just now tuning in, you're like, "Okay, this is a really long spiel," but it's just you kind of have to get a feel for the podcast and listen to the episodes so that you can know what I'm talking about. And it's kind of evolved over the last 2 years. I started the podcast in November of 2019, right before 2020, the year of really really wild stuff happening. And I've also navigated kind of starting this podcast when I was unemployed and having all this time to pursue my creative passions. I really started music then. And now that things are going to quote back to normal, getting jobs, working 30 hours a week, it's challenging to find time for your creative pursuits and for your passions. And now I'm realizing like, okay, how can I minimize these things that are getting in the way of me doing what I love? And yeah, this podcast has definitely evolved since then. What's even wilder is I started the podcast really at the same time that I had started DJing. So a lot of the, behind the scenes emotions of how I navigated starting my DJ and artist journey are in the beginning. My struggles with perfectionism are in there. It's actually really insane that I have kind of created this emotional mental log of my life within the last couple of years. And I am now getting to see what I've created for myself by healing through a lot of these things that come up, just with life. And what else? What else? Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm definitely in a different place than when I started. I think that I've been able to adopt more self-love and incorporate more self-care and just healthier emotional practices, really just embracing authenticity and being vulnerable. And the cool thing about being vulnerable is it gets less scary the more you do it. So I've been trying to practice what I preach and really put myself out there and be vulnerable just so I can show you and everyone out there listening that you can do it too. And it's really not as hard as our brains make it seem. But yeah, this is a first podcast I've recorded in I don't know, probably at least a month. If you're a member of my Patreon, you get extra episodes, so you've heard from me since then. But if you are just a regular listener of the podcast, then it has been a minute and I apologize for my absence. There is like a thing, I'm not going to apologize for being me, but I mean I do understand that consistency is an important part of a podcast and creating something. I mean, I know when I'm listening to my favorite podcast, I'm like, "No, I ran out of episodes." And sometimes you don't want to re-listen to the ones that you've already listened to because you already got the message. But so I understand and I hope that you forgive me. And I'm excited because, like I said earlier, I'm trying to incorporate, or I am incorporating, my creative passions more so that they can become my career. And I think that for a long time, I didn't think that was possible. I didn't really know how it was going to be possible. I just have myself brainwashed that it is possible and that I'm going to figure it out. And I'm excited to be here on this journey. Um, so yeah, a lot has changed since the last time I was here. I just quit my job so that I could have the weekends to travel out of state and travel for music more often, which is insane to think about. And I feel very good about that decision. And I feel that I'm just excited to kind of have two days back where I can, just devote to building social media, building my podcast, coming back to record for episodes. I'm excited because Friday mornings are I have this like weird thing where I started my podcast and I was living alone. And it's so easy to record when you're by yourself, but then when you move in with your significant other, even though you know that they are not judging you, you're still like, someone can hear me talking to no one. And I've been navigating that since, we've been unemployed and in between jobs and back to now working again. But yeah, just navigating how to not be so shy when recording when Davis is home or things like that. But because Davis will be at work, I get to be recording, or at least I'm going to have more time Friday mornings just recording and planning and doing fun stuff like that. So I'm excited and thank you so much for being with me here. Thank you for supporting my podcast. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for showing up for yourself. And thanks for doing life with us, with me, with the world. So today I wanted to kind of talk about this idea of trusting where you are and this idea that you are exactly where you are supposed to be at any given time. I think this is definitely, it could be like, well, I mean, it essentially is an existential kind of question. I think it really all just depends on what you believe in terms of your spirituality or, the kind of forces that are at play in this world, whether that be, spiritual laws or laws of physics, gravity, any framework in which you think this universe is operating. But I think even if you get to this place of just looking at it without that element, I think that we can all agree that certain decisions get you to certain points and it's like when you're playing a board game, like you roll the dice and you move your pieces. Like these causes are creating movement, and if it weren't for you rolling a 3, you wouldn't be 3 spaces ahead. Hopefully that metaphor made sense, but really just like everything is kind of a sum of our actions and these causes create effects. But if you do kind of operate under these principles that there is some higher force at play, higher consciousness, higher power, any which way you choose to look at it, believing that it's God or Allah or that it's just energy and there's really no kind of person or entity that is running the show. But the way I make sense of the world around me and the way I have kind of learned to understand things working out is that I'm where I am because of choices I've made, because of relationships I've had, because of places I've been, because of things I've studied, or, like all of these different things got me to here. I think often we have, sometimes regret about certain choices that we've made, feeling like we made the wrong decision, feeling like we are not as far along on our journey as we should be. we aren't as knowledgeable as we should be. We aren't as wealthy as we should be. We aren't as stable as we should be. All of these shoulds and all of these expectations. And I mean, I think I just gotten to a point where I just realized nobody really knows what's going on at all. We have all of this stuff that we have kind of recorded about our understanding of the universe and our understanding of the world and life on earth and in America, like all of these things we've recorded and made books and all of these things and cited our sources, but really honestly nobody knows. And I think that that has been able to kind of help me look past the shoulds. I think if you have been a listener of the podcast and you know my story, then you know that I was an engineer. I was majoring in engineering at one point, and that was not at any I mean, it might have been a tiny, tiny speck of what I wanted, but that was not a decision that was coming from inside me. That was someone else's idea of what it would mean for me to be successful in their perspective, or how I perceived that others would find me successful, you know? Like the shoulds are not. Get them out. But really, like, reassessing this relationship we have with all the shoulds in our life, and like, what are you living for? What are you doing because you think you should be? I have to ask myself that all the time. I I still say should a lot more than I should. I just caught myself. um yeah, there are still times when I incorporate it in my life, but learning to let go of what we think we should be doing has been such a relief, and really just trusting that only I know what's truly best for me because it's my life and my experience and my heart and my soul, and that I don't need to get upset trusting that. I It's hard not to say should. But like, yeah, I don't deserve to get upset because I'm choosing my needs and my desires in my life. And I think we aren't really taught that as children, or I think a lot of our childhood is spent doing and behaving the way others want us to, or the way others, give their love or give their validation to. And so it's kind of interesting to say, oh goodness, I need to rewire a lot of these things that I was taught. Yeah, it's just wild when you start thinking about it like that. One of the most probably life-changing realizations that I had maybe a little bit ago was just that by not living for myself and being my authentic true self and continuing to make these choices because I thought I should, or because I thought someone would approve of me or love me because I did X, Y, or Z. By continuing to make those decisions, I was building resistance, and I was actually creating like a blockage for my energy to flow, because the way I perceive it as, and keep in mind, who knows if what the hell I'm saying is true or accurate. I think it's just proven true in my own experience. So take what you will from it. But I was, even on like a metaphysical way, just like, I'm trying to think of how to explain this. So if I were making choices that were coming from my heart and my true desires, if I was living for myself, I would be viewing that as like being in alignment, being lined up with what you want and what you want to create and who you want to be and all these things. If you do the same thing, put it against the choices that you are making that are not in alignment with what you truly desire, if they're doing it to make someone else feel good or doing it to like give approval, for you to get approval or to be validated or anything like that, I believe that we are actually like working against ourselves, like literally pushing against ourselves, making things like at a standstill. Because if it's like when you're playing tug of war and everybody's like pulling the same, and it's just sitting there like in stillness. I think that by living for other people, we really create a blockage. And I think this blockage manifests as unhappiness, depression, confusion, feeling lost, feeling like stuck, feeling like you aren't doing anything with your life, just manifesting in these really gnarly ways. And I think when I started to have this realization and start to kind of just ask myself more questions and just really just reflect on my intentions and my whys, then I really started to learn to make decisions for myself and make choices based on what I wanted. And that's also like there's a lot I think of inner work that goes around all that, because you also have to feel secure to you know set those boundaries and cut off those toxic uh, situations or interactions. And that's not to say that just choosing yourself and making decisions for yourself is like something you can just like flip on. I think it does take a little bit of, inner work and security and feeling grounded and being able to get to a place where you feel confident and comfortable making decisions for yourself. But I will say that when I did get to a place of feeling safe and felt confident and trusting myself, I did start changing, and I dropped out of engineering and I switched majors, and I did a way better in my grades, and really just started to do the things that I wanted. And really, when the pandemic hit, I was grateful to have so much time off and able to get clear on what I did want to do in the world and how I wanted to affect change and all those sorts of things. And I'm so grateful to be able to have done that and to be able to have had that time and space, because I used to get migraines all the time, and they literally stopped as soon as I like switched majors and started, slowly shifting out of this this operating under other people's terms. And like I said earlier, like I think that I think that we learn these behaviors and we learn this kind of dependence, this, even though it's not really like obvious, like we create these dependencies and these emotional relationships and things like that. And I don't think anything's bad. It's just we're not doing it because we're truly expressing our desires. So that was a lot to realize and to start making shifts. And now I'm making shifts to where I am going to build a career out of this and build a career out of out of sharing these things and sharing my stories and sharing my wisdom and the things that kind of get communicated through me to help remind you that you are capable of living for yourself and you are capable of creating what it is that you want. You are capable of creating a life where you feel like you're not in resistance. You don't feel stuck. Like you feel like you're making the right decisions. It's all a journey. It's all one big old journey. I will share with you my lately journey about kind of comparison, and I think that this all kind of ties together just with trusting that I'm meant to be where I am, and especially really just kind of playing out in terms of my learning to produce music. I think, and I've shared in the podcast, my perfectionist tendencies start coming out. Basically, like I've realized pursuing any new creative endeavor is very triggering for my ego. And I feel like that is inherent in the artist journey just because I believe that really just kind of embodying this place of creativity and play and fun and wholeness and joy and flow and literally the opposite of certainty is just a space where the ego feels scared. They feel threatened and they feel because they can't measure certainty, it just feels off. Like you know what it feels like when you like grab a marker and you're like, let me draw a picture and your ego's like, well, what are the rules? And you're like, well, there are no rules. And then you're like, oh God, no. And like, I don't know. I just look at my stick figure and I'm like, geez, Louise, why can't I be a good drawer? But like, I don't want to keep this mindset of like that it's not okay to like be a beginner and then it's not okay to like mess up or make mistakes because I think that's like a big lesson in creativity is just learning to appreciate where you are in your journey because I think we all start out from the beginning and I think that when you are at the beginning you don't really you just feel so isolated and alone and like you can't create for shit and everything sucks and you know all these things and you really feel alone and you don't it's hard to identify with the idea that like no this is just part of the journey. This is how everybody starts. This is how we all begin. And I think learning to look at the situation kind of from my background in psychology and just really looking at things from this idea of our ego self operating on terms to keep us safe versus this part of us that is connected to source and knows and truly feels and embodies this connection. So it's totally comfortable playing and being wild and silly and diving into uncertainty. But when I could really hold space for myself, because even now, like I had this situation like with Dance Festopia. I entered in this contest for, entry into or like being able to go play at a music festival. And I started freaking out because my brain just started telling me like, "Oh, it's not. You're going to lose. It's you against all those people. You're going to lose." And I'm like, "Damn brain, why you got to tell me all that? Like that's not true." And fortunately, I've done a lot of inner healing to where I can be like, "Okay, hold on. We're not going to play that thought loop anymore. We are not going to go down that rabbit hole. We are going to kind of just keep our minds open and just contemplate on what comparison is and contemplate on how this is providing an opportunity to learn or show us something that we can't see. And I think maybe unconsciously, I don't really join contests or competitions a lot. And so for me, this is like new energy because I haven't had a lot of practice with it. And then I was like, oh, well, this makes sense. This makes sense why I'm getting so triggered. I don't know how to navigate the situation. And so my ego's like, help, we're going to lose. But I had to hold space for my ego and listen because I know that when I stifle myself and my voice and I, shun these emotions that are kind of yucky to look at, then they just, boil under the surface and then they just explode in my face. So I just wanted to kind of navigate and understand why I was saying these things, why I was coming to these conclusions that I was going to lose or, things like that, and why I felt the need to just like completely berate myself for no good reason when I compare myself to others. And I had to remind myself, like, you're creating resistance because you are comparing yourself and you are kind of shaming yourself for not being here or being this far or having this accomplished. You are creating resistance. And that's going against everything that you're trying to do. So I had to have a heart to heart. Like, I have to really be like, okay, well, ego, I hear you. You're getting triggered, but this is not the truth. It's not the truth that I choose to believe. I'm not going to believe that I'm going to lose. I'm not going to believe that I'm not good enough. I'm not going to believe that I'm not good enough to win or good enough to, yeah, like, whew. It's, and that's like a hard time to like hold yourself accountable. But I mean, realizing that it is coming from like a loving place and like the version of me that is operating on this higher consciousness, not really like, you know, giving myself time to operate from these not healthy behaviors, that reminded me that I'm still whole and I never wasn't whole. And that goes for you too. Like, we are unique in our individual beings and expressions. And because that, I believe that we are just, bits and pieces of this bigger whatever the hell we're part of, existence, universe, solar system, what have you. We are all, these unique expressions. I know unique snowflake has kind of gone on this roller coaster of connotations, but I still do love the idea that there's not a snowflake that is ever the same. I think that, there's like 7 billion of us on this planet. Like, what better way to explore, these fractals of divinity. But anyways, whether you believe in that or not, there there's still so much uniqueness to us and our personalities that no one is going to create or express from that same perspective. Even if you are similar as someone, or you play the same music, or you love the same topic, or all these things, they still don't have the same experience as you. They don't have the same background as you. They don't have the same heart as you. They don't have the same soul. They are a different, unique expression, and they're not going to be the same. Like, that that takes it to a level that you can't really compare. You can't compare things that are not the same. You can, but I don't want to. I don't I don't want to, use different measures or use different rubrics, to grade or to measure or to examine. Like, no. I think that we are all different. We're all these different combinations of of magic, and there's not another Madeline, and there's not another you out there either. And I had to check myself and just say, dude, you cannot compare yourself to anyone else. You don't have their background. You don't have your soul is different, your heart is different. You're completely different. How do you know that their journey is right for you when you're completely different? Like, just really starting to bring these perspectives up and just to reframe the idea that my uniqueness allows me to share a special way of telling my story. I think that this is kind of a big goal and intention for the podcast. Is I just understand that there are these common elements and themes in life, and maybe my silly, quirky, funny psychology evolution way is going to reach you. Maybe it's going to resonate with you. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. But I think that I do have a valuable voice, and I have a valuable perspective, as does every one of us. And I think that we all have these different strengths that we bring to the table, and we have the opportunity to share these with the world. I think that by truly being our authentic selves and expressing ourselves vulnerably, then we can share our perspectives and help others on their journeys. That's what I hope to do with mine. I just want to share, I mean, a lot of things, but I just want to share the idea that you can come from a dark, yucky place and completely transform everything. And I just want you to know that it's possible, because I was operating at a time when I didn't think it was possible. I didn't even know it was possible. I didn't, I could never have guessed. But, but I remember being like that. And I also know that I am on the complete other side now. And we think that we can't do these things that we are totally capable of doing. And it might seem wild and like there's a lot going on, but I believe that you can truly express who you are and who you were born to be with your special DNA that is not replicated. Like, you have a unique being. And I think that you can also share your perspective and share your journey. Because when we realize that we are all in this together, this human experience together, then we share things like having a body. We share things like experiencing emotions, what it means to be a human in 2022 when it kind of feels like things are crumbling, you know, and when it feels isolating and weird. And I just want to remind everybody and be a light for those who feel lost and feel that they don't understand the point of all this. And for those who believe that there's something more than what we see at face value. And so I have to really remind myself, like, when I start comparing myself and start my list of should, could, would, like I'm like, stop. I hear it. I'm acknowledging it. I am choosing not to shame myself because I do not want to prolong any more suffering. And it doesn't really even, help fix the situation. And you have to arrive at this point where you realize, I'm doing the best I can right now. I have made these choices that have gotten me to wherever I am. And I have done so based with all the knowledge that I have and all the tools that I have to navigate this world. And by reminding us ourselves this, then we can realize, that everything is unfolding how it's supposed to. And it is kind of like when the ground's kind of just appearing as you take a step. Which, I mean, there is a part though, like how do you find comfort in knowing that? Like I know so many people, and I know that I felt this way too. Like sometimes these little quips of wisdom don't just change everything or just like fix the problem, you know? But what I can do with this information is, you know, allow myself some grace. I don't shame myself, compare myself, do those lists of shoulds. And I do remind myself that I am safe in this moment, that I'm in good hands, that I should be grateful. Oh God, I just said should. That it's important to be grateful. Grateful for this breath, grateful for this moment. I can release, these expectations of myself. And and what I believe is just trusting that there is a process that I'm not aware of, that I'm not conscious of. That there are these cycles of life, these cycles of existence, these natural processes that are occurring that I might not even have awareness of. But I do believe that because we are all in this together, literally, that someone's watching out, something's watching out. And that brings us always back to this trust, this idea of like, well, how do I trust when I can't see it? And I think that's just one of my forever lessons in this lifetime, is just like learning what that means and learning how to employ it in my life, how to be patient, how to let go, how to surrender, how to quit holding on so tightly that my fists are just like sore from just tensing up. But we have to remember that we can't really get to this place of reflection until we pause and create this intentional pause and reflect on how we would not be who we are without all of these things. We would not be here at this divine intersection. How all of these things happen for me to show me these lessons, to show me these opportunities. Like these mistakes, these hardships, these failures, they're all blessings. They all got you to where you are right now, which is alive, breathing, and listening to this podcast. And there is a chance that had we made another decision or gone a different direction, we might not be right here right now. And I understand that if you hate right where you are right now, that all of this is not going to just, click. But an important thing for you to remember, if you do hate where you are right now, remembering that nothing is permanent and that all things are temporary. Just like winter is not permanent and spring will soon come, your suffering is not going to last forever. And really just taking this time to remember your strength and remember your power and how you got to be where you are right here and right now. And that whatever your background or beliefs, that you are connected to something bigger than you. And I like to believe that it's beautiful and magical. And even if you don't have a relationship with the higher power or God, just remember that you are energy and that the entire universe is made of energy. and that are a smaller piece of this humongous thing that we can't even fathom. But you are a part of this, and you are connected to this essence and this nature. And then it might start falling, start melting, I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but really just sprinkling like magical fairy dust, and then you begin to feel it. And really, I just feel like this connection is just what has really helped me keep moving forward, and really trust that I'm learning what I'm meant to learn, and I'm here, and each day brings something new, and I'm excited to see what that means and what that brings. And yeah, and really just trusting my journey and trusting my process and my path. And yeah, I just wanted to share all that with you. It's really been on my mind the last few months, and I know that this will reach you and hopefully resonate with so many of you who do kind of feel this sometimes wonder if you are where you are meant to be, or if you are where you should be, and all of these things. But thank you so much for listening. Thanks for staying tuned in the whole episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for your support. If you do want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so, and that is at Embrace the Madness Podcast. And you can see pictures, what's going on. I've been starting to post like fun content. So yeah, check it out. It's kind of like an extension of the podcast, just really sharing this message that you are powerful and you can do anything you want. You just have to believe in yourself. And yeah, if you want to even take the podcast a step further, get journal prompts, get meditations, get access to all these cool things, you can actually find it all on my Patreon. We can do the link in the show description. And yeah, and for all other things mad, you can go to www.embracethemad.com and see all my different creative pursuits in one place. So thanks so much again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please, if you are listening through iTunes, go rate the podcast and share a review and let me know what you think. I can't wait to see you later, and we'll talk soon. Bye. If you'd like access to more podcasts and a postcard each month, check us out on patreon.com/embracemadness.